I'm looking
I
down
always
on the.
wonder with the price of Facebook. I was thinking that exact same thought even last summer. With the price of a Facebook ad and reach you could get with a Facebook ad, is that still? I can't believe those guys are still in business. The
Yeah, they still do their thing. A copper tone, or usually it's for big event things like
right.
Fort Lauderdale Seafood Festival coming up, stuff like that. But yeah, we're in a very fast changing world, right? The digital is taking over, and that seems like a dinosaur. The guy riding in a single engine jet up and down the beach.
Yeah. Now we've talked a lot of times how just 10 years ago was almost all street team and people flyering and selling tickets on the street, and that's been not completely, but at least 50% on most nights replaced by Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and social media, and that's just
And then all the different marketing platforms. I mean,
right.
our online business has skyrocketed
Yeah.
in the last few years, and I kind of like that, because your website doesn't tell falsehoods as to who's performing that night.
100%.
The website says this is who's performing, and the customer will probably see the person that's on the website that evening.
Right.
Whereas we know that there are rogue elements out there on the street that sometimes don't even work for you. They just get your tickets
Right.
from somebody out there, and they buy them off another legitimate street guy, and then they resell them. There's a whole secondary market out there.
Yeah.
And I try to explain this to customers. We're not behind. Let me address another little falsehood. People think that I send out these guys into Times Square to say if Tina Fey is performing at the club this evening. I don't do that. I don't need the chaos at my box office. I don't need customers yelling like that. I don't need the Yelp review. But there's a guy out there who just specifically does the Tina Fey scam.
Yeah.
He's known to everybody. Everybody knows who he is. We've actually reported him to the police. We've reported him to the Department of Consumer Affairs. The police have arrested him and then released him. So, the guy's a heroin addict.
Has this picture on the website, I think. Like, don't buy from this.
Yeah, we've actually gone to the extreme of putting his picture on our website. Now, on a website, you try to promote positive things about your venue.
Right.
We have to take up space on our Facebook page and website to say, if you see this guy in Times Square, don't buy tickets off him.
Yeah.
And I'm not the only club. Other clubs in Manhattan actually have put this guy on their website.
Oh, I know. Yeah, he's out there.
Just a scourge, and he's not going away. He's a heroin addict that can't kick it, and he keeps doing this repeatedly over and over. But on the other hand, I start to think, this is New York City. You're in New York City walking around from Oklahoma. Don't you at least think, maybe before this guy tells me that Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, and, Lisa Lampanelli are all on a show tonight, maybe I should call the show and double check the website. They don't do it. They just, they hand over $50 to somebody in Times Square.
You know what kills me is when they come to the club and ask, are these legit? Like, you don't ask before you give the cash, because if they're not, you're going to go find the guy and get your cash back?
Well, that's it. I don't understand this mentality. On some level, you have to be responsible for your own stupid actions.
Right. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like, I'll give you free tickets. I'll do whatever I can to make you happy, but I can't do anything about what these people. I've actually seen them on at least 3 or 4 occasions selling right out in front of Caroline's during the day. And
and then Caroline calls me up and goes, "What the hell? What is this?"
Yeah. Right.
These people that tend to do the ticket selling are of a different breed of the world.
Right.
They're like the independents of being out there. They're rebels to some extent, and you tell them not to do something, they go do it right away.
Right.
It's like I should almost tell them, sell tickets illegitimately to people in Times Square, and they'll probably do the opposite and won't do that.
Mm-hmm. So I had one more series of questions, and more, talking about you even more as a comic. I know a lot of people may or may not know that you started as a comic, right? And then what got you into say, I need to own a club in this business, and maybe even talk about how you develop material.
Well, we might want to talk about that for an online class, but
true too, yeah.
I'll be glad to give you a teaser. I mean, listen, material just comes from everyday experiences. I
Right.
walk around with my phone, and I'll see something funny that I think can be developed, and then I'll just either send myself an email or record the thought in my phone,
Hmm.
and then I get back after a couple of days, and I write all these things down on a piece of paper, try to develop them into a bit, be as concise as possible and not long-winded, because people have no patience to listen to a long setup. Get to the funny as quickly as possible, and then obviously you test it in the laboratory of a comedy club, open mic or whatever, and then you hone the bit where it's really tight. And now, let's say you have 30 bits, okay, that you've done this with. Now you put them. What I used to do is I used to put them on Post-its, and I'd say, okay, I thought about this thing about I broke up with a girl in a relationship, and then I also saw this funny thing happen at a fast food restaurant. So now I write those premises on various Post-its. Now I have them in front of me, and I'm saying, how do I create continuity to make an act? Okay, well, I'll talk about my girlfriend for a minute or two, and whatever nonsense I wrote down on the Post-it, and then I see fast food, and I go, hey, what am I? And then you try to think of a segue, and you'll go,
Right.
oh, one of my last dates with a girl that actually caused our breakup was at a McDonald's.
Right.
And speaking about McDonald's, and then boom,
Hmm.
then you work your fast food material in. So there's really a process in writing stuff, and then eventually getting it from the very raw stage all the way up to where you're actually doing it on that 9 o'clock show on a Saturday night somewhere. So,
Awesome. And what made you go from being a comic to saying I need to own a comedy club?
oh, my kid, my kid.
Huh.
I always say an Al Martin rule, a golden rule of Al Martin's is travel light. The lighter you can travel in life, the
Hmm.
better shot you have to make it as a comedian. Because if you are that guy that has a wife, 3 kids, and you live all the way out on the suburbs, you have a lot worse chance of making it as a stand-up than that single guy living in his mother's basement with no responsibilities that lives in Manhattan that can get to 5 open mics a week.
Hmm.
So the lighter you're traveling in life, the easier you have to make it. So at that time, I was living, when I first started, I was living in a little studio apartment. So from that aspect, I was traveling light. My overhead wasn't that high, but I had a 5-year-old kid, and I had to figure out how to pay child support, how to pay for eventual dentist, orthodontist, college one day.
Hmm.
And I just looked at that time at the stand-up comedy field, and I said, I don't know if I'll ever really make it to where I can support a child being on the road all the time. And then I didn't like the lifestyle, being on the road all the time and away from my kid. I had him every other weekend, but then I had to work every weekend. So, that was very rough. And then the opportunity came to open up, which is all going to be in the book. But
Plug.
the opportunity came up to start a business, and I ran with it, and it developed into something great over 30 years. And I'm very proud of it. The only thing is now I'm worrying that with the coronavirus, will it be here in 6 months? I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
You know.
Uh-oh.
Hello?
There
Yeah,
you
I
are.
lost you for a second. I
That's all right.
got a phone call.
No,
Uh,
that's awesome. And maybe we can save a little bit for the book and let
yes,
people go buy this thing. And
yes. Don't
worst
want
case
to
scenario, if
reveal
we have
too
no more
much.
clubs, that'll be the income.
Yeah, exactly. But this has been a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Any other questions you have?
No, I really appreciate it. I think it's awesome, and I hope that when we do reopen, I'll be sending a whole bunch of potential new comedians. But
That would be awesome.